The summer I was 9, the old house wore the afternoon like a shawl. It lay quiet as a creature half asleep, the windows breathing with a slow, patient sigh that never seemed hasteful enough to betray a secret. Moths drifted along the lamplight in the hall, and the lilac outside pressed against the panes with a whisper that sounded almost like blessing. We did not call it a ritual, not then. It was a game we played because the world beyond our little yard stretched too wide and noisy, and in those days the house promised shelter if you asked nicely enough. Isla was my best friend that summer, a bright girl with a stubbornness for mysteries and a laugh that rode the edge of wind. Her mother had moved away later that year, and the letter that told us of the parted street and the new school arrived with the exact kind of handwriting you memorize by feel, a thin cursive that tapped a rhythm on the nerves. After Isla left, the house never did stop listening to us, as if the walls held a memory of our voices and would not forget even a syllable. On Sundays, when the heat gathered into a dense amber in the kitchen, we arranged a small circle against the hearth, 2 candles between us, a pinch of salt scattered in a circle on the rough linoleum. We whispered Isla's name 3 times, as if that would carve a doorway through which she might re-enter our summers. We never spoke the grown-up words for what we hoped or feared. We spoke only to the house, to the quiet between boards, to the moment when the house might lean toward us with its own secret and not quite betray us. The first thing that felt wrong later that autumn was the door in the pantry that would not stay shut. It clicked by itself, softly, like a child's fingernail raking a chalkboard. If you pressed your ear to the grain of the wood, you could hear a breath, a tiny, wheezy breath, like the house exhaling in relief that the game had continued another week. The second thing was the window over the sink that fogged over with a pattern of watermarks that spelled nothing and everything at once, as if the house were scribbling with dew to tell us, in a language only children could mistranslate, that it remembered. Isla disappeared that winter, as quietly as a snowfall that never quite lands. One day she was in the yard, circling the oak with me, and the next day her seat in class was conspicuously empty, her desk a stubborn island of absence. Her mother wrote that Isla had suddenly remembered a distant aunt in another city and wished to see her, and that the world would soon show her the way back, so we should not worry. But she did not come back. Not then. Not ever. We learned to fold our fear into ordinary things, into the kettle's hiss, into the way the staircase lammed into the upper floors with the weight of rain, into the way the clock at the top of the stairs kept time with a patience that suggested a secret commitment to us that we could never quite earn the right to know. I did not forget the ritual, though. In the years that followed, when the house settled into its own slow, creaking season, I kept a box of things that belonged to a friendship I could not quite name anymore. Isla's ribbon, a torn photograph, the small silver locket she wore that summers ago, when the world felt so bright the teeth of the wind shone silver on its surface. And I kept a little promise the house asked of me, a promise I did not fully understand until much later, to keep steady, to keep listening, to keep returning when the daylight grew thin and the house asked me to listen for more than the ordinary sounds of a life poorly lived. Decades moved through the house as through a slow, unhurried river. The yard changed, new people settled. The old lilac tree bloomed in a way that seemed almost ceremonial, as if time itself gathered to witness a rite that was older than our names. The house, it seemed, did not forget our childish bargains. It kept a long memory, and it was not merely memory, but a kind of witness that aged with you, a witness whose eyes could look down corridors and see the air between things, as if it were a floor that someone might tread upon. When I inherited the house, I thought to leave behind the old rituals and return to the quiet, respectable present I deserved. But the house did not surrender its time to a respectable present. At night, when the house grew quiet and the streetlight spilled pale pools across the floor, I heard the soft, stubborn rustle behind the pantry door, the door that would not stay shut. A breath, yes, but a breath that sounded like the old breath of a girl who had never learned to leave. I would sit in the living room, and the clock would tick in a way that felt like a reply to a question I did not know I had asked. In the attic, there was a door I had never opened, a door at the far wall, behind a chest of drawers that seemed to have slipped out of a different century. The chest bore the signs of a child's care, sparks of gold paint on the corners, a latch worn smooth from countless, patient openings. There were boxes labelled in my own childish letters, Isla's things, Henry's things, the things we promised to keep. In a corner, tucked beneath a moth-eaten shawl, lay a small, carefully stitched book. It was not a book, really, but a ledger, a diary in lines as neat as a schoolchild's handwriting, the entries small and precise, the way a child writes to keep a memory from tipping over into a dream. The diary belonged to Isla. I fought at first until I read Father and recognized my own name, written in the exact same careful hand that had penned mine. The entries spoke as if from two voices, one an adult, one a child, talking back and forth through a single page. The summer we did the circle did something to us, it admitted in one line that was too old for a child's voice to utter. We wanted to belong to the house. The house, it claimed, offers shelter not only for living things, but for time itself. A shelter in which past and present might share a room and forget the clock's tick-tock as a reminder that they are not supposed to forget. What frightened me most, and what I did not understand until I turned the page to the diary's last entry, was the date. The dates that glowed faintly in the margins, dates that matched no calendar I could conjure from memory. The book's language changed there, from the child's precise script to something else, a voice older than memory, as if someone else had penned the words with my own hand. It spoke of a promise kept and a promise broken, of a circle that would never be complete unless a single thread was allowed to vanish into the floorboards. The room in the attic grew less an archive and more a listening